Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about coaching conversations. Now, coaching conversations are a great way for you to help your team to take responsibility for their own performance and their own development. Now, as a billing manager, I know that you're going to be time poor, but I promise if you can practice having coaching conversations, you're going to get a lot of time back in your day and in your week because you're going to be teaching your team to learn to solve problems for themselves. Okay, and I know that it's going to have a real impact for you. But what is coaching? Well, it's a focused two-way discussion where as the manager, you're going to be asking a lot of great open questions, like really encouraging your consultants to explore their challenges and their goals for themselves and find answers for themselves. But how do we do that practically? Well, we use something called the GROW model, and I certainly recommend using this conversation structure to take you through a structured conversation which helps somebody to find their own solutions. Okay, we want to help our consultants decide for themselves on what steps they want to take, creating real ownership and accountability. But you might be asking yourself, well, what are some of the subjects or some of the examples that coaching conversations would be really good for? Well, maybe think about two different applications. Like, firstly, think about some of those ad hoc day-to-day questions that you get from your team at your desk, and they probably relate to how they do the job, how they manage the recruitment process. So, for example, my candidate has a counter offer. What should I do about that? Or my clients decided to work with another agency as well on this particular project. What should I say? What do I do about that? And I think both of those examples are really, really good scenarios where a good coaching conversation would help out. Okay. And then secondly, you might want to look at some of these longer term skills development or job performance goals. If you think about, everybody has something that they can develop in the job, and your consultants are going to be no different. So, for example, one of your consultants, one of their objectives might be to build deeper and better relationships with their clients. Well, what do they need to do about that? So both those short-term scenarios and longer-term goals are both great scenarios for you to think about applying a great coaching conversation. But I want you to see how this might work practically, and I'm going to walk you through the GROW model step by step. And to demonstrate this, I really want you to think about a specific challenge that you personally face at work. Okay, or it could be a goal that you have at work right now that you need to make some progress with. Okay, you might have a challenge with somebody on the team. There may be some time management challenges that you have. Whatever's your priority right now, have a think about what that is, and we'll try to take you through the GROW model to help you make some progress with that. Okay. If you need to pause from time to time as we go through that so you can think about these questions, that's fine. I'd prefer you to think about your responses versus just running through the video fairly rapidly. Okay, so first of all, have a think about what is that challenge that you're facing, and then let's look at the goal part of the GROW model. And we always start with the goal when we work through this conversation structure. So thinking about your goal, thinking about this situation, what is it that you want to achieve? Okay. How will you know you've been successful? What will be the evidence? What will you notice? What will other people notice? Okay, so just take some time to consider what it is you really want to achieve in respect of this situation. How will you know you've been successful? What will be the evidence? What will you notice? Really visualize that. Now, the next thing we want to explore is the reality. So what's happening right now with respect to this situation? So again, thinking about your situation and thinking about the goal that you've established in your mind. Where are you in relation to that goal? Okay, what have you tried so far? What's working, what's not working? Okay. Who is impacting this situation, or what else is impacting this situation? Okay, what's stopping you from being successful with this right now? Again, you might want to take some time to consider your thoughts with that. And when you have some clarity around both the goal and the reality, the next step of the process is to really explore what we're going to do about that next. And to do that, we want to think about the different options. What are the different things that we could do that would help us make some progress with this? Okay. Again, thinking about your own situation, what are some of the things that you could do differently? You know, do you have 1, 2, or 3 different ideas that's going to really help you to make some progress? Perhaps think about, what do you need to do to challenge yourself to make progress? How do you need to take yourself out of your comfort zone? What does that look like? Okay. And another way to think about this is, you know, what would your manager do if they were you in this situation? What would their advice be? And start considering it from a different perspective. And then with all those things in mind, just have 2 or 3 different ideas on tasks or actions that you could take action with that's going to really make a difference. Okay, and then finally, we want to create some action. We want to create some commitment. So what I want to do is to explore this way forward piece. Okay, so which of those options that you've thought about is going to serve you best? Okay, what's the one that is achievable and is going to have an impact for you? And with that in mind, what's the next step that you're going to take? And when will you do this by? Again, you might want to pause just to reflect on that. Okay, so what's the next step you're going to take? And when will you do this by? Okay. And through that conversation, you're agreeing next steps with your team. Okay, you're setting an expectation about what's going to happen next that's going to really help either support their development, okay, or support their performance. Okay, so the challenge for you now is to really practice working with this model. Okay, so you become more comfortable with it, more well versed with it, and then you start to feel the benefit of using this approach versus telling people what to do or giving them the answers. Okay, which is very tempting when you do hold the expertise and have the experience. But the more you can be teaching your team to learn for themselves and think for themselves, the better. Okay, so what I'd like you to do in your next one-to-one with each of members of your team is to identify a challenge that they're currently facing, specific to one of the jobs they're working on right now. Okay. Okay, and then use the GROW model to coach them to find a solution for themselves. Now, if you're wondering what questions to ask, if you need some help with that, there's a whole bank of questions that relate to each aspect of the GROW model. But what I would say is when you ask good open questions, really listen to what's being said by your consultants and use those responses to dictate your next open question. Remember, your intention is for them to explore what's going to work for them and then to make that commitment about what they're going to do next. Okay. Now, you'll notice if you've been successful with your coaching conversations, if your consultants are coming up with the ideas for themselves, okay, and they're confident in taking action and trying something different. Okay, and by doing that, that's where their learning is going to come from trying to do things different. Having that experience, that's where their learning is going to come from, more so than you telling them what to do all the time. Okay. So being a great coach and manager really does take time. It takes practice. So keep finding your opportunities to use GROW. Your one-to-one meetings are a great time to do that. So that's it for this video. I just want to wish you the very best of luck with this, and I'm sure I'll see you again soon.